Once upon a time, in a beautiful kingdom called Moro, there lived a very proud and wicked princess, called Tina. Her beauty was unmatched, her skin like polished bronze, her eyes like dark pearls, and her hair braided in gold-threaded locks. But her beauty was as sharp as a sword, for it fed a pride that swallowed her heart. She oppressed and terrorizes everyone and anyone that came across her. She would make the villagers lay flat on the ground to greet her whenever she walking by, and order her servants to throw the ones who refused in the dungeon or turn them to her slaves in the palace. Tina believed no one was worthy of her. She insulted suitors, mocked the weak, and turned even the noblest guests away with cruel laughter. One day, a poor hunter from a distant village came to the palace to plead for help. His pregnant wife was sick, and they had no food. But Tina, seated on her high throne, sneered at him. "You stink of poverty," she spat. "Even your shadow dishonors these palace stones." The hunter dropped to his knees. "Princess, I beg you. I have nothing left." Tina's eyes narrowed. "Then eat your shadow, peasant." Humiliated and broken, the hunter left the palace with tears in his eyes. As he walked into the wild, a dark wind swept through the trees. A whisper echoed in the silence. "She has mocked the humble. Let her beauty become her curse." That night, the hunter's sick pregnant wife got worried while waiting for her husband and leave the house to look for him. It was already in the middle of the night, everywhere was dark. She hit her leg on a big stone and fell down hard on her stomach. That night she lost her unborn child and also her womb. With grief deep as the ocean, he offered a blood vow to the forest spirits. "Take my joy, take my name, just curse the one who caused this pain." And the spirits answered. Days later, the poor hunter and his wife couldn't bear living in the kingdom anyone, so he packed his bags and left Moro Kingdom in agony, never to return again. Weeks later, Moro Kingdom were preparing for their annual festival. It was always a very colorful celebration in Moro Kingdom, where young beautiful maidens pick their husbands and the men also pick their wives. This year's festival was special in Moro because the Princess Tina was of marriageable age and will be among the maidens picking their spouse. A week before the festival, Princess Tina, who was incredibly excited about the upcoming event, enjoyed a lovely dream about finding the love of her life and felt immense joy until something abruptly awakened her. Her body was itching uncontrollably, and the scratching was becoming unbearable. She rushed to her mirror to discover the cause of her discomfort, and what she saw was terrifying. Her face and body were covered in large boils, which frightened her, prompting her to scream. Hearing her cries, her maid hurried to her room to determine the issue. Upon entering the princess's room, the maid was so horrified by the sight that she could only stand there in shock. Finally, she managed to utter, "Princess Tina, is that truly you?" The maid yelled in fear. That was when Princess Tina glanced at the mirror once more. The reflection terrified her, leading to a scream so loud that the king and everyone in the palace rushed into her chambers, and what they witnessed left them speechless. She was covered in huge boils, her skin looked scaly like that of a water creature, her hair had turned gray, and worst of all, she had transformed into an ugly beast with a horn on her head. "This cannot be my daughter," the king bellowed. "Where is my beloved child? What have you done to her?" he shouted, directing his rage at Princess Tina's personal maid. "Arrest her," the king commanded his guards. However, Princess Tina, feeling frightened and humiliated, pleaded, "Wait. It is me, father. I believe someone is envious of me. They are attempting to destroy me and have turned me into a monster," she said, then broke down in tears. Witnessing this, the king's heart shattered. Seeing his daughter cry was unbearable. "Fetch the herbalist immediately," he ordered one of the guards. The herbalist came at once and tried all his best to give possible diagnosis to what happened to the princess, but failed because he had never seen anything like that before. "This is obviously a witchcraft. It defies any natural medicine," the herbalist said, bowing his head. "What witchcraft? Who would dare my only child with witchcraft? In my kingdom? I must get to the bottom of this now. Send for the witch doctor," he said, almost screaming. The witch doctor arrived and provided a potion for the princess to drink, advising her to sleep and wait for morning to return to her normal self. However, the princess couldn't find sleep and cried throughout the night. When dawn arrived, she was back to her usual self as if nothing had happened. All the frightening changes she had experienced the night before vanished. She was overjoyed, and the king shared in her happiness, rewarding the witch doctor generously for restoring his daughter's health. However, that night, at the same hour when the transformations had occurred the previous evening, the princess fell victim to those changes again. She transformed into a beast once more, and this time the ordeal was even worse. She cried out, prompting the king to summon the witch doctor again, who provided her with the same potion. This cycle repeated for several nights, each time becoming increasingly terrible. The king, infuriated, commanded the arrest of the witch doctor. "You have been misleading us all along. The potion you're giving my daughter is ineffective," he declared, instructing his guards to imprison the witch doctor until he offered a lasting remedy. After 2 days, the witch doctor confessed that he had no solution for the princess's plight. He informed the king that the princess was under a curse and there was nothing he could do. This revelation enraged the king, and he called upon all the powerful witches and wizards from within and beyond Moro. They all gathered, but none could aid Princess Tina, except for one particular witch. He provided the princess with a magical shoe and instructed her to wear it at all times. "This curse will not show itself as long as you are wearing this shoe, but if you take it off, it will return, so you must keep it on at all times. However, there is a drawback. The shoe is quite painful, and you will experience discomfort whenever you wear it," the witch explained, handing it to Princess Tina, who at that moment was in her beastly form. As soon as she placed her feet into the shoe, she transformed back into her normal self. Her father, the king, was overjoyed. "Remember, do not take off the shoe unless you are alone or going to sleep," the witch cautioned her before leaving the palace. With this issue resolved, preparations for the festival continued. The palace kept this unfortunate event under wraps, and the king even proclaimed that anyone who dared to speak of it would be executed. Consequently, the entire Moro kingdom remained oblivious to the incident. During the festival, numerous suitors, including princes from neighboring kingdoms, were invited to give the maidens, especially Princess Tina, the chance to make their choice for a husband. Dressed in her shoes, Princess Tina proudly paraded among her maids until Prince Kojo, the crown prince of Akare Kingdom, took notice of her. Prince Kojo was strikingly handsome and had a sense of pride. His attendance at the Moro Kingdom's invitation was motivated by his need to find a queen for his forthcoming coronation. "I don't really have to be here, you know, but I want to marry someone from Moro because Akare is the wealthiest kingdom," he remarked to his best friend, Remy, who accompanied him to the festival. A few days after the ceremony, preparations for the wedding of Princess Tina and Prince Kojo commenced. Everything seemed to be on track, except that Princess Tina's enchanted shoes started causing her considerable discomfort as time passed. She was finding it increasingly challenging to keep the shoes on for long periods. This prompted her father to summon the witch once more for assistance. He arrived, performed some rituals, and enhanced the shoes, making them more comfortable for Princess Tina again. On their wedding day, Princess Tina wore the shoes throughout the day, but by nightfall, she was nearly in tears from the pain they inflicted, yet she persevered while traveling to Akare Kingdom. Upon arriving at the Akare Palace, she managed to slip away from her husband and darted into a room where she could hide and remove the shoes. The prince chased after her, but she entered a room and locked the door behind her, pleading with him for privacy, stating that she was exhausted but would join him shortly. She glanced around and saw that no one was present in the room. She took off her clothes, sat down, and slid her foot out of the shoe. As soon as she did, she transformed into a more fearsome monster than before. Sitting on the ground, she wept. When her crying ceased, she reinserted her foot into the shoes and returned to her normal self. She exited the room and rejoined the prince. Unknown to her, 2 servants who were secretly entangled under the bed had witnessed the entire scene and were left in utter disbelief. "So she's not even human," the male servant remarked, pacing nervously. "What should we do?" "We must reveal her true nature before she brings misfortune to our kingdom," they both agreed. The 2 servants came to see Princess Tina dancing happily with the prince. "We must find a way to show everyone what she really is," the female servant said. Few months later, Princess Tina had managed to keep her secret away from Prince Kojo and his servants. The only person that was aware of her secret was her personal maid. The princess insisted on having her own room, and she was able to convince the prince that she always felt cold in her feet, thereby making her to always wear shoe all the time. The prince agreed, not because he liked it but because Princess Tina being in her own room will give the prince freedom to entertain his concubines. All efforts by the 2 servants to expose her failed because they didn't know her source of power. So the female servant, whose name was Mary, suggested to hide under the princess's bed at night to find out more about Princess Tina's secrets. So that night, Mary, who was already under Princess Tina's bed, held her breath when she heard voices coming towards the room. The princess walked into the room with her personal maid, cursing and hissing. She wore a very long and beautiful gown and sat down. The maid removed her shoes and she instantly turned into a huge beast. Mary observed that the shoes were her power, so she decided to steal the shoe once the princess falls asleep. In the middle of the night, when Princess Tina's maid had retired to her own room and the beast was sleeping, Mary came out quietly from under the bed, picked the shoes and was about to open the door when she felt a very cold grip around her neck. The beast flung her on the ground and she sustained a serious injury. Blood was oozing out of her wound. The beast at the sight of blood became instantly hungry. She picked Mary up and ate her like she was eating a chicken. Immediately she was done eating her, she returned to normal. The shock on her face to see herself back to normal without her shoes on was huge. She quickly called for her personal maid without even minding the blood all over the place. "I am free at last," Princess Tina exclaimed excitedly. "Free? How and whose blood is this?" the maid asked, confused. "I am me again without the shoes," Princess Tina said again, giggling. "And as for the blood, it is from a low-life intruder." "What do you mean? Where is she?" her maid asked repeatedly. "She is in my belly. Once I finished eating her, I got myself back. Can you believe that?" Her maid became scared and asked, "What if they find out you killed someone?" "Don't worry. Clean this place up and no one will ever find out," Princess Tina said without remorse. Few days later, Princess Tina was having dinner with dignitaries that visited them when her body started itching her. She thought it was nothing, but the itching intensified within a minute. She excused herself and ran to her chambers. "Get me the shoe," she commanded. Then she discovered that her legs could no longer fit into the shoe. "What is happening to me?" she cried. She also found out that she was extremely hungry. The next thing she noticed was that she has changed into the beast, but this time a bloodthirsty beast. The prince was worried and wanted to check if everything is okay. Send a servant to check on her. The servant came knocking on the princess's door, but instead of a reply, the door flung open and the beast dragged him into the room and devoured him. She returned to her normal self immediately and smiled. "Clean this up," she commanded her maid, and walked majestically to the dining hall. The scared maid froze in place. Meanwhile, the servant that was in the room with Mary the first day they saw the princess change into a beast had been really worried about her. He had searched everywhere, but she seems to have disappeared. He thought it won't be long before the palace started noticing the disappearance of their servants. He was able to convince 2 other male servants that the princess was a beast and might be responsible for the disappearances of the missing servants. So the 3 of them came together and made plans on how to catch and expose the princess. They watched the princess for some days and discovered she feeds on human flesh to remain human. The princess always goes to the royal river to swim almost every 3 days. And she does this before branching to a hut where her maids would have kept a human being for her to eat. The 3 servants found out about this and decide to lay a trap. They dug a hole on the path the princess will walk to the hut so that she can fall into it, hoping her true self would be manifested before she's rescued. On that day, the princess proceeded to the river with her personal maid and 2 other new maids she had recruited into her evil lifestyle. Princess Tina had forbid the palace guards from following her to the river on disguise that she wants to appear approachable to the subjects and not as one who was too proud. She was giggling happily and going ahead of her maids when she suddenly fell into the pit. She screamed in fear and the maids ran to her to help her. Who would have done something like this? Princess Tina's personal maid asked. With fear the princess screamed, "Hurry, get me out of here," the princess ordered. The maids tried their best, but the hole was too deep for them. "Let us send for help from the palace, the pit is too deep, and it will soon be dark," one of the maids suggested, but the princess shouted, "No, do not call anybody from the palace here, keep trying." When the male servants saw that they've had her where they wanted, they quickly ran to the palace and informed the prince. The prince swung into action. He gathered his best guards and they all set out to rescue the princess with the male servants leading the way. By the time help arrived, the princess's body had started itching her. "Get me out now," she kept screaming. The villagers had gathered and they were about to help her out when she changed into a beast. She jumped out of the pit and tried to run, but the palace guards blocked her as they were already there. The princess took one of the guards and ate him up, right in front of the prince and other villagers. Everyone ran for their lives except the prince and his guards. "What is this?" the prince asked, looking at a naked ugly beast in front of him. "It's the princess's personal maid," said, and fell on her knees crying. The prince and his guards drew their swords and started going towards the beast to fight, but the beast ran away and fell over the tall mountain that served as a boundary between Akare kingdom and another kingdom. They searched for weeks, but she was nowhere to be found. They sent a message to Princess Tina's father informing him of what had happened. Her father sent a very angry reply back to Ikare to provide his daughter, or expect war from his kingdom. Meanwhile, Princess Tina returned to the Moro kingdom in her beastly form, creeping into the palace through secret underground tunnels only she and her father knew. Her father, the king, was stunned and horrified when he found her devouring a servant in his private chamber. "Tina!" he shouted. She turned to him, her mouth dripping with blood, eyes wild. "Father, help me." But all the king could do was stagger back, horrified by what his daughter had become. For the first time, fear overtook his love. The king attempted to cover up Tina's return and monstrous state. He ordered all the palace staff who saw her executed, spreading rumors that a thief had broken in. He locked Tina in a hidden tower within the palace, providing her with victims secretly. But the kingdom began to notice the increasing disappearances of servants and guards, and whispers of a cursed princess locked away grew louder. Tina's transformation worsened. She began changing in the day as well, unable to control her form. Her hunger grew insatiable, and soon, she broke out of the tower. She wandered into the village in broad daylight, attacking livestock and vanishing before guards could catch her. Panic swept through Moro. The people feared a demon stalked them. They pleaded with the king, but he said nothing. News of a beast terrorizing Moro reached the ears of the poor hunter and his wife, now barren, but alive and in a distant village. The hunter, filled with pain and fury, returned to Moro in disguise. Upon discovering the truth, that the beast was the same princess who destroyed his family, he vowed to end her existence. He began forging weapons dipped in sacred herbs and the blood of the lost child he buried. Tina's loyal maid, now terrified of her mistress, secretly sent a message to the Prince of Ikare. "She lives, but she is not the woman you married." After Kojo read the letter, he came to Moro kingdom in disguise and witnessed Tina in her beast form. Enraged and humiliated, he declared her an enemy of the kingdoms. He swore vengeance, forming an alliance with the hunter and a group of sorcerers to destroy her. The king's court turned against him. His advisors demanded answers, and when he tried to deny everything, a group of guards revealed the hidden tower and the remains of the victims. The king was forced to confess. The council of elders stripped him of his divine title and declared him unfit to rule. "Your love for your daughter has cursed the kingdom," they said. He was locked in his own dungeon as villagers rioted outside the palace. Princess Tina fled to the forbidden forest, where ancient beasts and spirits dwelled. But the hunter, Prince Kojo, and a band of warriors and witches followed her trail. After days of tracking her through blood and shadows, they cornered her in a cave of bones. The hunter stepped forward and said, "This is for the child you murdered." He threw the sacred spear into her chest. She screamed, shifting violently between human and beast. As she lay dying, Tina had a vision of the life she had lived, of all the people she had oppressed and wronged, standing in a field of fire. "You were given beauty and power, but chose cruelty and pride," the spirit said. "Now you will live as a shadow." Tina's body turned to ash, but her spirit did not pass on. It remained trapped in the land, neither living nor dead, forever watching the people she once oppressed. News of Tina's end reached her broken father. But rather than peace, he felt shame. The villagers demanded justice for years of silence. He was exiled to live among the poorest of the poor. No crown, no gold, just the whispers of what he had allowed. His days were filled with regret, haunted by visions of his daughter's screams. Children would throw stones at him, calling him father of the beast. He died in silence, forgotten by the world. Years passed. The palace of Moro stood in ruins, overgrown with vines. Travelers avoided the forest where Tina's spirit still cried. And in village squares, storytellers gathered children to share the tale. Do not let pride blind you like Princess Tina. Do not protect evil like King Damba. Or you too may be cursed, and become a shadow in the land. And when the moon is full, and the wind howls through the trees, they say you can still hear her whispering your name. Thanks for watching this story. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel.